You were taught to be gentle, to open up, to share your heart, to be vulnerable. They package this idea in soft words and pretty slogans. Be her protector. Be her provider. Be her peace. They told you that women want a good man, one who listens, who feels, who gives. And you believed them. You did it all. You showed up. You cared. You opened your heart. But here you are, confused, ignored, maybe even abandoned. Watching the same woman who once held your hand, now obsess over a man who barely remembers her name. And something inside you stings. That quiet voice whispers, "None of this works." And deep down, you know it's right. Because in the real world, the rules they gave you, they don't hold up. Calvin Reed didn't write women magic lore for men still holding on to fairy tales. He wrote it for the man who's been lied to, ghosted, left in the dust. The man who's finally ready to stop pretending and see the game for what it really is. And here's the truth nobody wants to admit. Women don't fall in love with nice. They fall in love with gravity, with presence, with power. Not with how much you care, but with how little you flinch. Not with how much you tell her, but with how much you don't. The man she dreams about doesn't put her on a pedestal. He stands like he doesn't need her applause. You were trained to chase, to prove your worth. But the moment you chase, everything flips. You kill the mystery. You lose the tension. You tell her, without saying a word, "I am beneath you. That's why I run after you." Reed lays it out simple and sharp. Never chase. Because the second you do, you're not the prize, you're the pet. And women don't lust after pets. They pet them, praise them, then get bored. And look for the wolf. The wolf doesn't ask for love. He doesn't seek affection. He commands presence just by being who he is. That's the shift. You want her to crave you? Then stop craving her. You want her to need you? Then build a life so magnetic, so purpose-driven, she wants to revolve around it. Not because you gave her roses, but because you gave her stillness, direction, mystery. You're out here trying to win her with effort. But women don't fall for effort. They fall for energy. They fall for the man who doesn't flinch when she pulls away. The man who can walk without hesitation. That's the man she remembers. Not the one asking, "What did I do wrong?" But the one who makes her wonder, "Why can't I stop thinking about him?" You think connection comes from confession, from opening up too soon. But that's not trust. That's just handing her your instruction manual. Every insecurity, every need, every wound, it becomes a roadmap. One she didn't ask for. And once she's got it, the mystery is dead. She's not cruel. She's not cold. But your vulnerability became availability. And women don't crave what's always available. They crave uncertainty, not chaos, but masculine unpredictability. The calm man, the grounded man, the one who reveals just enough to keep her guessing. That's who keeps her up at night. You think words make her trust you. But women don't trust words. They trust presence. They trust direction. They trust a man who doesn't need them to validate who he is. Because when your energy says, "Please choose me," she doesn't feel admiration. She feels something closer to pity. Not because she's mean, but because biology punishes need. Need smells like survival. It says, "I need you to complete me." And that's not romance. That's dependence. And trust me, she knows the difference. She may not say it, but she feels it. When a man puts her on a throne, he loses his edge. He hands over the things she wants most. Emotional authority. You think you're winning her by worshipping her. But you're not. You're becoming her project. Her burden. Her responsibility. And here's the irony: when she gets that control, she doesn't feel safe. She feels exhausted. Because no woman wants to carry the emotional weight of the relationship. She might pretend she does. But over time, she'll start to resent it. She'll start to test you. She'll push. She'll provoke. Not because she wants to hurt you, but because she's begging you. Please, stand up. Show me you won't fold. Reed is ruthless with the truth. The moment she realizes she can control you emotionally, you've already lost her sexually. Why? Because desire doesn't live in comfort. It lives in tension, in polarity. You want to be her man? Then stop reacting. Stop bending. Anchor her. Lead her. Not with loud words, but with silent strength. That's the real secret. Not found in rom-coms. Not in self-help memes. You think attraction is about emotional equality. But attraction is primal. And primal doesn't care about fairness. It cares about instinct. Women aren't calculating this stuff on a whiteboard. They're not sitting around plotting some elaborate game. They feel it. But what they feel follows a pattern. She pulls back, not because she's done, but because she wants to know if you'll pull her back in. She pushes limits, not because she wants chaos, but because she wants to feel your edges, to feel your frame, to feel that there's something strong enough to hold her. You see tests. She sees reassurance. She's not trying to punish you, she's checking if you're real. If you fold when she gets moody. If you backpedal when she withdraws. If your masculinity is just surface level. Or if it's rooted in something deeper. She doesn't want perfection. She wants solidity. She wants to feel that she can fall apart around you, and you won't fall with her. Not because you're cold, but because you've built yourself on something stronger than her approval. And here's what most men don't understand. You don't get that strength by accident. You get it by building a life that doesn't revolve around her. Too many guys hand over their center the moment a woman shows interest. They ditch their mission, their hobbies, their goals. They turn their entire emotional ecosystem into a "please love me" machine. But here's the brutal truth. Women don't fall in love with men who orbit them. They fall in love with men who have their own gravity, their own pull. Men who move like they're whole, with or without her. Calvin Reed puts it plainly. Women respect the gate, not the doormat. If she didn't have to climb the mountain, she won't stay to enjoy the view. You gave her full access before she earned it. Before she even asked for it. You told her, "Here's my heart, my secrets, my time, my identity." And then got shocked when she lost interest. But let's be real, would you respect a kingdom that hands over its keys without asking you to prove your loyalty? Reed doesn't say be cold. He says be rare. Rare in your validation. Rare in your neediness. Rare in your dependence on someone else to feel like a man. Because when you become the kind of man who doesn't need to speak to be heard, you become unforgettable. Women have heard every compliment. They've seen every DM. What they haven't seen is a man who sees through them, not just at them. A man who doesn't flinch when she pulls away. A man who doesn't chase every little mood shift. A man who knows, I am enough with or without your affection. And that man? He doesn't need to play games, because he is the game. He's the standard. He doesn't ask, "Do you still love me?" He simply exists in a way that makes love gravitate toward him. This is what no one will tell you in school, in therapy, or on your feed. Because it crushes the fantasy. It calls out the lie. That lie that says, "If I'm just good enough, she'll choose me." No. You're not being rejected because you're too emotional. You're being rejected because you gave away your edge. You were taught to chase harmony. But attraction doesn't come from harmony, it comes from friction. From contrast. She is emotion. You are presence. She is fluid. You are fixed. She is the wave. You are the rock. And the moment you try to reflect her softness, you disappear into her emotional world. She becomes the masculine force by default. And no woman wants to be intimate with what feels like her emotional twin. She doesn't want to hold you. She wants to feel held by you. That doesn't come from crying on her shoulder. It comes from knowing exactly who you are, even when she's trying to test that. Reed says it best. Women don't want your soul. They want your center. They want to feel your axis, unshaken. Especially when they try to shake it. Because make no mistake, she will. Not out of malice, but out of instinct. She needs to know. Is this man real? Is his confidence earned or just performative? Are his boundaries rooted, or just bark with no bite? Every complaint, every silence, every test of your patience, it's not punishment. It's measurement. She wants to feel the weight of your presence and know that it won't bend under her pressure. And you? You keep folding. You keep apologizing. You keep asking, What do you want from me? But she doesn't want an answer, she wants a response. She wants a man who says, "This is my line." Not with anger. Not with fear. With grounded, unshakable presence. That's what gets remembered. Not perfection. Not poetry. Clarity. Reed hits the core of what most men miss. She doesn't want to lead. She might act like she does, culture tells her that's empowerment. But in her heart, she doesn't want the wheel. She wants to trust that you can drive. That you can set the tone. That you can hold the frame, even when she challenges it. Because feminine energy doesn't want control. It wants to surrender. But it can only surrender to something strong enough to hold it. If she has to lead, if she has to hold the frame, she might stay physically. But emotionally, she's already gone. And when that happens, don't say she changed. She didn't. You just stopped being the man she could trust enough to follow. So now what? What do you do with all this? Because if you're here, it's not because you've got it all figured out. It's because something inside you knows. What you've been told doesn't match what you've lived. You were trained to be emotionally available, but you feel emotionally used. You were told to be gentle, and now you're discarded for being too easy. You were told to chase love, but every time you do, it runs faster. So here's the pivot. You stop chasing. You stop leading with your wounds. You stop begging for affection and approval and start asking, what kind of man am I when no one's watching? Because that's where the real shift happens. Not in how she responds, but in how you rebuild. You stop trying to win her. And you start winning yourself back. You build. You sharpen. You commit to mission over emotion. To discipline over desire. To purpose over praise. That's how you create the kind of gravity women can't walk away from. Not because you begged, but because you became undeniable. And suddenly, women feel that. They feel your center. Your detachment. Your silence. And they begin to orbit, not around your need, but around your presence. Because here's what Reed drives home, again and again. Your abundance is your leverage. When your life is full, when your vision is crystal clear, women can sense that you don't need anything from them. And that's rare. You're not showing off. You're just full. Full of movement. Full of momentum. Full of self-respect. And in that fullness, she begins to ask, where does he go when he disappears? Why doesn't he text first? Why isn't he obsessed with me like the others? That mystery? That gravity? That's the lure. Not a manipulation. A truth. You stopped making her the sun, because you became the sky. Most men reverse it. They meet a beautiful woman and surrender. They cancel plans. Lose focus. Abandon their standards. and then break down when she loses interest. But what else could you expect? You made her the prize before she even earned the role. You gave her the throne before she proved she could sit next to a king. And here's what Reed makes surgical. Women do not respect what comes without effort. They don't desire what's handed to them. They desire what stands just beyond reach, until they reach for it. It's not about being rude. It's about being rare. Rare in your silence. Rare in your availability. Rare in your need for constant reassurance. You become unforgettable when you stop trying to be remembered. Because women have seen attention. They've seen compliments. What they haven't seen is a man who sees through the noise. A man who isn't shaken by beauty or baited by drama. A man who is the frame, not the one who tries to fit inside hers. That's what shakes her core. Not performance, but presence. Not begging, but boundaries. Not trying to match her emotions, but holding steady through the storm. And no one teaches this. Not in school. Not in therapy. Not in society. Because it breaks the illusion they've sold you. That your softness is what makes you worthy. It's not your softness that makes you forgettable. It's the fact that you gave it without strength to hold it. You made her the sun and forgot to become the sky. That's not her fault. That's yours. But here's the gift in the pain. Now you know. Now you see. And now you have a choice. You stop giving away your center. You stop bleeding for women who haven't earned your trust. You stop mistaking approval for connection. And you start building something they want to belong to. Not because you chased them down, but because you walked in a direction so powerful. They had no choice but to notice. This isn't about hating women. This isn't about manipulation. This is about taking back the pieces of you that were never hers to hold. Your focus. Your edge. Your fire. And when you do that, when you reclaim your center, when you lead without explanation, when you learn to say no without guilt, and yes without fear, you become dangerous. Not because you're cruel, but because you're finally free. So here's your call, brother. Not to become cold. Not to close yourself off. But to stop being ruled by the fantasy of what you think love should be. It's time to stop giving your power away. Stop blaming women. Stop playing the victim in a game you never understood. Because women are not the problem. Your illusion of them is. And the moment you stop needing her to complete you, you become complete. Not in theory. Not in some spiritual cliche. But in your bones. And in that moment, she feels it. The shift. The presence. The power. She doesn't remember the man who begged. She remembers the man who didn't need to be chosen. Because he had already chosen himself. And that, brother, that's how you win.